The rise of the Kingdom of Wessex is often seen as a heroic tale of brave warriors, men who stood shoulder to shoulder in the shield wall, their courage echoing through the centuries. These stories, passed down through generations, have shaped our understanding of England's origins, painting a picture of valor and unity in the face of overwhelming odds. And at the heart of these legends are wise rulers, kings and queens whose decisions would change the fate of a nation. But behind this story lies a darker truth, one rarely told in the tales of glory and conquest. The creation of England was not a single event, but a brutal, centuries-long struggle that cost countless lives. It was a time when entire communities were uprooted, and the line between soldier and civilian often vanished. The violence and chaos of war swept across the land, affecting not just those who fought, but also the innocent, men, women, and children, whose lives were forever changed by the tides of conflict. The green fields of southern England, now peaceful and serene, were once the backdrop for unimaginable horror. Where sheep now graze and wildflowers bloom, the ground was soaked with blood, and the air filled with the cries of the fallen. These tranquil landscapes hide the scars of a violent past, their beauty masking the tragedies that unfolded here. Understanding this human cost is essential to understanding our history. It reminds us that the foundations of nations are often built on forgotten tragedies and silent suffering. The echoes of those losses still linger, shaping the identity of a people and the land they call home. The kings and queens we remember, Ecgbert, Alfred, Athelstan, were not just legendary figures, but real people navigating a world of constant conflict and uncertainty. Their success was not inevitable. It was secured at a terrible price, paid by both the powerful and the powerless. Every victory came with sacrifice, and every decision carried consequences that rippled through generations. This is the story of how England was born, not in simple triumph, but through centuries of bloodshed, sacrifice, and resilience. It is a story of hope and heartbreak, of ambition and loss, and of the enduring spirit that shaped a nation from the ashes of war. Before the Vikings set foot on English soil, the land was already a battleground. The story of England did not begin with foreign invaders, but with its own people, locked in a relentless struggle for dominance and survival. England was a patchwork of competing kingdoms, each fighting for power. These were not unified nations, but small realms: Northumbria, Mercia, Wessex, East Anglia, Kent, Essex, and Sussex, each ruled by ambitious kings who dreamed of supremacy. This era, known as the Heptarchy, was marked by constant internal warfare. Alliances shifted as quickly as the weather, and betrayal was a common tool of politics. Armies clashed on muddy fields, and the fate of entire kingdoms could change in a single day. Battles were brutal, fought not by professional soldiers, but by local levies. The Third, ordinary farmers and freemen called from their fields to defend their homes. These men, armed with whatever weapons they could muster, stood shoulder to shoulder, knowing that defeat could mean the destruction of everything they loved. The shield wall was the main tactic, a savage affair with no mercy for the losers. Warriors pressed together, shields overlapping, pushing against their enemies in a desperate struggle for survival. The clash of iron and wood, the cries of the wounded, and the chaos of battle left scars on the land and its people. This constant war devastated the land and its people, with kings leading raids to weaken rivals. Villages were burned, crops destroyed, and families torn apart as armies swept through the countryside, leaving devastation in their wake. For ordinary people, enemy raids meant their homes and families were never safe. The threat of violence was ever present, and survival depended on luck as much as strength. Children grew up in the shadow of war, and every harvest was uncertain. Wessex, overshadowed by the might of Mercia, had to become stronger and more ruthless to survive. Its leaders learned to adapt, forging alliances and building armies, determined to carve out a future in a world where only the strongest endured. Building a formidable military machine, Wessex paved its path to glory with the bodies of its neighbours. Through blood and determination, it would rise from the chaos, setting the stage for the battles yet to come. In the early 9th century, Mercia was the superpower of southern England, dominating Wessex. But in 802, Ecgbert became king of Wessex, having learned much about power from Charlemagne. In 825, Mercia's king Beornwulf, led an army into Wessex, meeting Ecgbert at Ellendun. The battle was a decisive victory for Wessex, shattering Mercian power in a single day. The river near the battlefield was said to be choked with the slain. This victory shifted the balance of power, allowing Wessex to seize control of Kent, Surrey, Sussex, and Essex. For the first time, one king controlled southern England, marking the rise of Wessex. As Wessex established dominance, a new threat emerged: the Vikings. Initially small raids, by the mid-9th century, Vikings aimed to conquer and stay. In 865, the Great Heathen Army landed in East Anglia, an invading force of thousands. Led by figures like Ivar the Boneless, they quickly overran Northumbria and turned to Mercia. The Viking arrival plunged England into unprecedented violence and chaos. Only Wessex remained standing, facing an existential threat. The fight was no longer for dominance but survival, as Wessex faced an enemy determined to erase it. In 871, Alfred became King of Wessex, inheriting a kingdom on the brink of collapse. His first year saw 9 major battles against the Vikings, leaving Wessex decimated. Despite efforts, the Vikings, led by Guthrum, seemed unstoppable. In 878, a surprise attack forced Alfred to flee, becoming a fugitive in his own kingdom. From the marshes of Athelney, Alfred waged guerrilla war, refusing to surrender. He rallied the Fyrds for a final fight, becoming a symbol of hope. Stories of his humility and determination, like the tale of burning the cakes, reflect a king fighting alongside his people. In spring 878, Alfred emerged from hiding, rallying the Fyrds of Somerset, Wiltshire, and Hampshire. Thousands answered his call, marching to face the Vikings at Edington. The battle was a brutal contest of strength, with Alfred's army fighting for their very existence. The Viking line broke, and the West Saxons pursued them, laying siege to their fortress. After 2 weeks, the Vikings surrendered, marking a total victory for Wessex. Guthrum agreed to be baptized, symbolizing a new strategy of integration. This secured Wessex's survival, proving the Vikings were not invincible. The rise of Wessex is incomplete without acknowledging the suffering of ordinary people. Constant warfare brought devastation to their doorsteps, with armies stripping the land of resources. Raids meant villages burned, wealth stolen, and lives shattered. Farmers faced ruin, starvation, and death as their crops and livestock were destroyed. Even in peace, the demands of war weighed heavily, with people conscripted to build fortifications and serve in the Fyrd. Trade routes broke, famine and disease spread, and civilians perished from indirect consequences of conflict. The glory of Wessex was built on this widespread, silent suffering. After Edington, Wessex was secure, but England remained divided. Alfred's successors, Edward the Elder and Ethelstan, continued the fight, pushing back the Danelaw. They reconquered Mercia and East Anglia, extending Wessex's rule. In 937, Ethelstan faced a coalition army at Brunanburh, a battle for control of Britain. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle describes a field of carnage, with West Saxons and Mercians fighting side by side. Ethelstan's victory was overwhelming, securing Wessex's dominance over England. For the first time, one king ruled all the English people, realizing the dream of a unified England. The rise of Wessex, from a modest regional power to the undisputed master of England, is one of the most compelling and dramatic chapters in British history. It is a story of ambition, vision, and relentless struggle, set against the backdrop of a land divided by rival kingdoms and constant threats from within and without. The transformation of Wessex was not inevitable. It was forged through the determination of its leaders and the sacrifices of its people. Kings like Ecgbert, Alfred the Great, and Athelstan were not just rulers, they were architects of a new political reality. Their vision and leadership laid the groundwork for the England we recognize today, uniting disparate tribes and territories under a single banner. Through diplomacy, reform, and military might, they shaped the destiny of a nation, leaving a legacy that endures to this day. Yet, behind the pageantry and triumphs, this glory came at a staggering human cost. The wars for unification were brutal and relentless, with thousands of men perishing in fierce battles that scarred the land. The clash of swords and the thunder of shields echoed across fields that would become graveyards, and the price of victory was paid in blood and suffering. The foundation of England was laid not only with the bones of fallen warriors, but also with the tears and anguish of countless civilians. Villages were razed, families torn apart, and entire communities uprooted by the tides of war. For many, the dream of a united England meant only loss and hardship. For every victory celebrated in the halls of kings, there is an untold story of loss, terror, and heartbreak. The songs of triumph often drown out the cries of the bereaved, and the cost of glory is measured in lives forever changed or lost. History teaches us that the process of state building is rarely peaceful. The chronicles of the past often gloss over the brutal reality, focusing on the deeds of rulers while overlooking the suffering of ordinary people. But the scars of conflict linger, etched into the landscape and memory of a nation. By remembering the bloodshed and sacrifice behind Wessex's glory, we gain a more honest and compassionate understanding of our past. It is only by acknowledging both the achievements and the tragedies that we can truly appreciate the complexity of history. The story of Wessex is a powerful reminder of history's dual nature, of inspiring achievement and profound tragedy, of hope and heartbreak intertwined. It challenges us to look beyond the surface and seek the deeper truths that shaped our world. The creation of England was a remarkable feat, a testament to human ambition and resilience. But we must never forget the price paid by those who came before us, their struggles, their losses, and their enduring legacy. Join us as we journey deeper into the real stories behind history's great events, uncovering the human experiences that shaped the world we know today.